Hi everyone, this is Dr. Menije. Welcome back to another episode. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 3 of my favorite books on couples relationships. But before we get started, I want to remind you, make sure to subscribe below so you get notified of my latest episodes. And if you have any questions, any comments about today's topic, make sure to also share them below and I will personally respond to you. So let's get started. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 of my favorite books on couples relationship. One of the reasons I wanted to share this topic with you is because I also offer couples therapy in my private practice here in Los Angeles. I work with individuals or I work with couples. So I got a couple of great books that I think you will love if you're working on improving your couples relationship. So let's get started. The first book I want to share with you is by Dr. Sue Johnson, and the title of her book is called Hold Me Tight. I wanted to recommend this book to you because the information on this book is relevant to all couples, despite of the relationship status, meaning that whether you're married or not married, whether you and your partner have been together for 1 year or 10 years, the information here is very relevant, helpful, and useful no matter what your couple relationship looks like. The second reason I wanted to recommend this book to your library is because it's a book written by Dr. Sue Johnson, who is a licensed psychologist, and she is also the leading expert on emotionally focused couples therapy. This is a modality, it's a specific approach to working with couples. Again, it's called emotionally focused couples therapy, and it's been research and evidence-based that shares effective tools on dealing with couples relationships. So I tend to really look out for tools that have been studied. There has been research on it, and when they say the success rate is really good, that there's actually science behind it to prove it. And again, Dr. Sue Johnson has done a lot of research on her tools and interventions, and they have been proven to be effective. So anything that's backed by science, I often highly recommend. And I also wanted to share one of the core messages from this book that really is important in my relationship, in my personal relationship, but also when I work with couples. And Dr. Sue Johnson, in her book and her approach, in her emotionally focused couples therapy approach, what she talks about is that couples relationship isn't just about learning better communication tools. It's not just learning how to argue better or have fair fights or having fair plays. While those things are important, she talks about the emotional connection between the two partners. She argues that between you and your partner, there is an emotional attachment. You are emotionally attached and dependent on your partner the same way a child is to their parent. Now, this doesn't mean that, cliche old saying that, you see your mom or you see your dad in your partner. It's actually speaking to the emotional connection between two adults, two partners, and how there is a deep emotional attachment and connection and need for belonging that is very similar to the deep connection a child and attachment a child has with their parents. So along with those, she will talk about 7 conversations to have. She talks about in this book patterns that gets the couples stuck in their cycle. She refers to it as the dance, and it's about learning to dance with each other without stepping in each other's foot, and really learning to enjoy the music and learn how to have a better dance with your partner. So for that reason, this is one of my recommendations. The second book I want to recommend for you for your couples relationship, that is a wonderful book, is by Jancee Dunn, and her book is called How Not to Hate Your Husband After Kids. I know probably the title says it all. How Not to Hate Your Husband After Kids. And to be honest with you, I got this book from my husband after we had our daughter. It was our first holiday after becoming a parent, and he bought me this book, and I still till this day ask him if there was some hidden message there, and he says that this was just seemed like a really good, fun book to read, and it really was. It really was. The author, I think, did a wonderful job balancing between her personal experience and her personal challenges in her couple relationship once her and her husband became a parent, and then also sharing scientific research on couples relationship, on negotiation, how to communicate, set boundaries, and give each other room for individual hobbies. So I think the most important reason this is very relatable book is because we do actually have a lot of statistics that show how much couples satisfaction decline once the couple have a child. Obviously, this doesn't mean that we need to, not become a parent, because as a parent, that's obviously a blessing to have my daughter. But what it really is trying to validate and normalize is that there is a shift in the couple's relationship once the couple become a parent. And that I think what often happens is that our needs and our attention to our couple relationship goes away because we're now paying more attention to our infant who obviously needs us. So again, this book is really helpful because it's bringing attention to an issue that's happening in most families where the couple relationship suffers after becoming a parent, and you end up actually hating your husband. Well, maybe hate is too strong, but disliking your husband or your wife or your partner after you have a kid. So that's for that reason this book is really, really good, very relatable. You hear the author's personal experiences. They go to couples therapy. She talks about that experience. So it's very written from a human place, from a very personal place, but still giving you a lot of scientific tools on how to improve your couple's relationship. The third book I want to recommend to you is Fair Play. It's called Fair Play by Rodsky, and I also love this book, and it's one of the reasons I want to recommend to you because the suggestions and the topic on this book is quite relevant to the issues the other book addresses, which is how do you find a balance between in your couple's relationship between kids, work, and your personal life and your couple's life. Because what ends up happening in the couple's relationship is that there is the division of responsibilities and division of labor becomes unfair. It's uneven, and it leaves the couples, each person feeling quite neglected, unhappy, unfulfilled, and there's again a lot of divorce when the division of labor, division of responsibility is not fair. What I love about the authors, there's again a lot of great tools in here, and she shows you, and there are some cards you can also purchase to go along with this book to teach you how to reorganize your relationship so there's a better fair play. Along with that though, what I love about fair play is that it's not about 50-50, right? I think that's that outdated old school idea that it needs to be 50-50. That's what fair play is. But what the author recommends is to focus on your level of competency and to own your stuff. Do things that based on your competency, not because it needs to be 50-50. Well, I did this yesterday, you do this today, but it's focusing on each partner's competency and really taking ownership of things based on that, and that gives you a more fair play. She's also a big advocate, and this is another thing I took away from this book, is when you are dividing responsibilities and labor between you and your partner, so again there's a better balance in your family life. She talks about really expressing to each other reasons behind those requests and expressing to one another what is the underlying value. She has a wonderful example here, and I had a chance to meet her in person at an event, and she talked about it also during that talk. Is she shared this example about her with taking out the garbage. And she talks about how for a while her husband didn't understand, and she came across as like this, picky, difficult partner who just was so strict about the trash being taken out. And then she tells the personal story behind it, the personal reasons behind why it's so important for her that the garbage is taken out more consistently, and that her husband follows through when he says he's going to do it. And to me as a therapist, it's so important because often again, I think the message is going back to the other books about emotional connection. When we want to explain ourselves and getting our needs met in our couple's relationship, it's very important to communicate from a place of a vulnerable place, an open, raw, authentic place. I think that's one of the ways to communicate our needs and making sure that we're taking good care of each other and ourselves during this repair, during this period of improving and healing. So these are 3 of my favorite books on couples relationship. If you have read any of them or will be reading them after seeing this episode, make sure to share your comments below. I really would love to hear from you guys. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you get notified of my latest episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.